Who would win, a prime Lee Priest or Keone Pearson?
What's up guys, I'm Malcolm. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So guys, channel membership is now live. Link is in the description and the first comment. Do check it out. That would really help. So let's start this video with this recent physique update from Keone Pearson. As Keone starts his Olympia prep at 18 weeks out from this year's Miss Olympia. So about 4.5 months. Now to all the people who are blindfolded by nostalgia or people who just glorify the past, I'm gonna say a little too much. Yes, I agree. That was the golden era of the game. But saying that guys like Lee Priest, he would smoke Keone. Well, just take a look at this shape and think again. The flow, the kind of crazy proportion that this guy has. This is probably one of the best genetics that we have ever seen since the beginning of bodybuilding. And that isn't exaggerating anything. I mean, look at that waistline and those lats on this guy. I'm gonna be brutally honest here. In terms of the shape and the aesthetics, it's Keone Pearson over Lee Priest all day every day. And the argument that many of these fans have, that Lee beat a guy like Ronnie Coleman back in the day. Yes, I agree, that is true. But 90% of the guys back in the early 90s, they were beating Ronnie Coleman up until 1997. Now, that wasn't a prime Ronnie Coleman. Let me present to you guys a different bracket here. Do you guys think that Keone Pearson would have beaten a guy like Shawn Ray? Now, most of the people out there, they would agree that he would have. Then by that standard, and per that metric, Lee Priest never beat Shawn Ray throughout his career at Miss Olympia stage. So that is another perspective. And honestly, as good as Lee Priest was in his upper half, his lower body, his legs, they were simply never as conditioned as his upper half. So he will lose to Keone, especially the version that we saw from him at the Olympia last year. And just looking at this most recent physique update from Keone, I'm gonna say brace yourselves to see the most outrageous 212 physique to ever step on the Olympia stage in October in 18 weeks time. Because even right now, with 18 more weeks to go, Keone's conditioning looks so damn crazy. That is simply awesome. The waist is nowhere to be found. The quads are looking bigger than ever. And I'm gonna say more balanced compared to his upper half. Now, I have no idea why some people out there still underestimate Keone Pearson. And that too just based on one weakness, because of his ab split. Because we are here talking about Keone Pearson as a potential Olympia title contender, even in the men's open. Now, we have no idea when Keone is making that jump into the men's open. But I am 100% sure that he's gonna destroy the 212 competition once again this year. And just for the record, even some of the active IFBB pros like Sean Carida and Hunter Labrada, they went on camera picking Keone over Lee Priest.
Who would win, a prime Lee Priest or Keone Pearson?
I like Keone, man. He's got a lot, flow, small waist, big arms. I gotta say Keone, probably.
Keone all day long. Keone Pearson Wood, massive fan of Lee Priest, and in his heyday, phenomenal. But the amount of muscle Lee Priest held was incredible. Like, no one's going to touch that in that frame. But when it comes down to symmetry and how small Keone's waist is to how clean his physique is, all day long.
So Andrew Jack was hinting that he might do another show after this past Arnold, Ohio and FIBO, Germany, if his body allows him, if his body is feeling right. But he has decided to go into a full-blown off-season, and that, in my opinion, is 100% the right call.
Day 2 of off-season. We just started.
So what does that mean? Well, he's gonna have to eat a lot of food in order to grow, in order to get bigger, to put on more muscle. Maybe on his quads and on his back, just like many pro bodybuilders do. Now, why am I mentioning that? It's because Andrew is someone who doesn't like to eat more food, even when it comes to the off-season.
Starting to start eating again. Okay, that was one of the most hardest things in life, eating.
Now, we saw that Andrew kind of missed a bullet at FIBO, Germany, because he could have easily lost that show to Sazan Herati if he did not come back better for the finals of that show. I mean, Sazan was leading after the prejudging. And honestly, if that would have happened, this ongoing qualifying season, that would have been so much more interesting. But on the flip side, I am so happy that this did not happen because now he's fully focused to make some very noticeable improvements and come back a lot better, possibly at his all-time best for the Olympia this year. And first of all, that means putting on more thickness in the back and in his hamstrings in the side shorts. And secondly, he has to focus a lot more on his lower half. He has to bring more size in the legs department from the front, and he has to be more ripped from the back in the hamstrings and the glutes. Now we know Andrew has this ability to stay very lean even during the off-season and even when he is in the detox and the clean out phase. So just about a week back, he was 288 pounds with visible abs, but now he's gonna build his way up to 300 pounds as he's a very tall guy. So if I'm gonna ask you guys, which was your favorite look of Andrew jacked over all these years? Well, I'm gonna say even though he was very dry and very ripped at this past Arnold, Ohio, but his look at Texas Pro last year, that was my personal favorite. He had more fullness in his quads, and that made his X-frame way more pronounced. Now, I'm gonna say Andrew is in kind of a tricky spot. The judges wanna see him bring a very shredded and a very conditioned look, but at the same time, they want him to maintain that bubbly, round look that makes him very unique, and we do not know at this point whether that is even possible for him or not. Next up, we have an 18 weeks out physique update from Josema Beast. So he's gonna start his Olympia prep next week. Now, if everything related to his blood work that comes out clean, and for anyone wondering, is he qualified for the Olympia this year? Because most of the fans out there, they remember the Pittsburgh Pro and the New York Pro, and both the shows that he lost to Terence Ruffin. The fact of the matter is that he won a show last year in the post-Olympia tour, which was Spin Pro, and that was just 1 week after the Olympia, and that I'm gonna say was a very smart move. So if everything comes out clean, he's gonna start his prep next week. So competing at the Pittsburgh Pro and the New York Pro, that was his one way of challenging himself against a multiple times Arnold champion and a multiple times runner-up at the Olympia, Terence Ruffin, and also a way to keep his weight somewhat in the range, because Jose Manuel is also one of those guys who just cannot afford to have a long off season where he puts on so much weight that making that weight cutoff, that becomes very difficult. And by the way, for those of you guys who do not know, this is a guy who started his pro career as a men's open bodybuilder, and it's a challenge for him to make that weight cutoff every single time because he has to lose so much muscle, so much mass, and actually that is one of the reasons why he always comes in so damn shredded and absolutely ripped to the bone. So is he gonna wind up in that Olympia top 6 one more time this year? Well, I'm gonna say yes, that is a very big possibility based on his impeccable condition and one of the best backs in that entire classic physique division, or I'm gonna say the sport has ever seen. Now, people often say that if he had more room to grow, if his weight cap that was a little higher, then he could grow his quads, get bigger legs. But that being said, if you take a look at his men's open debut, then you are gonna realize it is in his genetics to have legs like that. His weight has very little to do with that. Rubiel Mosquera, aka Nexilla, he's probably gonna be one of the most anticipated physiques to step on this year's Dubai Pro stage, because first of all, he's coming back after 1 year, and second of all, he has that true X factor. So an in-shape Rubiel, he can shock the world based on his size and his freak factor, and by that, we aren't implying that he's gonna win Dubai Pro, but he's gonna regain all that hype that he kind of lost in the past 1.5 years due to him pulling out of so many shows one after another. So a reasonable placing here in Dubai, that is gonna set him up to have a better shot at his Olympia qualification later this year. Now you can make an argument that Rubiel probably has the best side shots in pro bodybuilding right now, and all that's left at this point is to see him bring a shredded look, a very conditioned look, to this upcoming Dubai Pro stage. Now, I do not think many people they were expecting him to compare so well against the top pros like Michael Krizo, Nathan Diesha, and Samson Dauda back in 2023, just 1 day after winning his pro card. But the man did exceptionally well, and we are almost 16 months past that time, and Rubiel has been training very hard all year round. So we are expecting to see some kind of improvements on his physique this time around. And we're gonna see that in about 2 weeks' time. So at this point, it's all about Rubiel's commitment and him committing to doing a longer diet prep and do some more shows this year. And I'm very sure if he does that, he's probably gonna make it to this year's Olympia stage. Next up, we have an update from Sergio Oliva Jr. So those arms are looking extra saucy on Sergio right now. And now that he's sitting at 2 months post-show, the goal remains the same. For Sergio Oliva Jr., win the second pro show of his very long career and get to that Miss Olympia stage finally, after 7 long years. We do, however, know that he isn't doing any show in the near future, and that means in the month of June, possibly July too. So he's gonna have to be bang on target if he decides to enter an Olympia qualifier, very close to the Olympia this year. But let's give credit to Sergio on the physique that he presented in FIBO, Germany. He's a very big guy. He's also a very wide guy. And he has some crazy body parts. For example, his arms and his legs. But his back, that is nowhere near as good as his front. And that specifically goes for that one affected side, where Sergio had that shoulder injury. So he's gonna have to balance that, as well as develop more density if he wants to be very competitive and win another pro show. So, I have a question for you guys. Is Sergio overrated? Well, in terms of his track record, which is only 1 pro win and only 1 Olympia appearance in a very long pro career, that seems very true. But some of the shows that Sergio did, they were very big ones, like the Arnold, where he had no chance of placing top 4. So the man is now over 40 years old. And if he has to make it to that Olympia stage again, then this is the time. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video. And smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.